So good morning. This course is mechanics, which has 3 credits, 2 plus 1. 2 credits are allotted for theory, for which you have an interaction of 4 lectures per week, and 1 credit. I'm sorry, it is a 3 plus 1 course. So for theory you have 3 credits, and for lab you have 1 credit. This is for theory, and this is for lab. Therefore, for theory, you meet 4 hours per week, whereas for lab, you are going to meet for 3 hours per week. This is how the course is scheduled. Now, lab continuous assessment. It will be for 50 points, that means 50 marks, which also accounts for 1 credit, as I already said. What are the things that we are going to do in uh, laboratory sessions? So we are going to discuss, and possibly we are going to have virtual demonstrations of 7 experiments, and then we are also going to solve 3 graphical exercises. So total heads uh, under lab of AMC or lab of mechanics are 10. How are you going to be assessed for your performance in this lab session, or for this 1 credit, or for this one, or for 50 points? So I am going to conduct 3 vivas. So each viva will carry 10 marks, and these vivas will be dependent on the experiment. So there are 7 plus 3 10 exercises. So 3 3 and 4. This is how the distribution of experiments or exercises assigned to Viva 1, Viva 2, and Viva 3 is. This Viva may not necessarily be in the form of oral examination. It may be in the form of a quiz that I will ask you to submit on Google. Then you have your file. I request everyone to mute for now. I don't know, can you mute yourself? Yeah. Now, the file, that means all the questions that are provided at the end of each experiment, their answers, you have to type them or you have to write them, your choice. Then observation table, conclusion, and calculations. All this comes under the file. So that carries 15 marks, and the class participation will carry 5 marks. This is how the distribution of assessment points across the 3 heads for this course. So with this background, now let us begin with the first experiment, and we are going to talk about reaction of beams. So even before we start discussing reaction of beams, let us first start discussing the first technical term in mechanics, and that is force. So I want every one of you to unmute one by one now and tell me what is the notion of force that you carry. So I will spell out the names, and you are going to tell me what is your understanding of a force. So Ankush Nag, can you unmute yourself?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So what do you understand by force? Can you tell me?
Force can be described as something push or pull of an object on an object.
So I'm going to take few words from each description and I'm going to write it there. And then definition of force is going to be collectively, we are going to collectively evolve definition of force. We are not going to rely on the bookish definition. Let me write down all the words that you are spelling out. So Ankush says it is push or pull. Okay. Then Arnav, in your opinion, do you want to add something?
Sir, whenever there is an interaction between two objects, there is a force upon each of them.
Great. So two objects and their interaction.
Yes, sir.
Right. Then let me ask Ashwin. Ashwin Nair, what do you think?
Sir, even I got the same idea as Ankush. Push or pull on an object is force.
Okay. So you go with the first point. All right. Then Avishkar Mule.
Uh, a force is something which helps to change the velocity of object or changes displacement.
So you mean to say change of velocity or change of position? Am I right?
Yes. Yes.
So anything that brings about the change of velocity or change of position is a force. That's what you are saying, right?
Yes, sir.
So I will put down this. Good. Then let us go to Dhruv. Dhruv More.
Sir, I would say the first point as well.
First, push and pull. Okay.
Yeah.
Harsh. Let us go ahead with Harsh Nande. Harsh, can you unmute yourself? So as I said, no response in chat box and no response uh, through microphone. I will assume that the student is absent.
Sir, I actually joined a bit late, so I couldn't see the question.
No, we were just discussing what do you think a force is. So can you tell me what, in your opinion or your understanding, what is a force?
Sir, a force is any thing that causes change in motion.
Yeah, so motion parameters like velocity and position. So you go with the third point, right? Change of velocity or change of position, right? Okay. Harshit Narula.
Force is an action that produces acceleration in a rest point.
It is action that produces acceleration. So acceleration essentially means change in velocity. So this point is linked to the earlier point, but I wrote it separately because you said something additional, action. So therefore I have written down this separately. Now Manan.
Sir, anything that brings a change in the state of the object can be said as force. Like you can change the state. If it is at rest, you can keep it in moving, and if it is in
Yeah.
moving, you can bring it to rest.
Yes. So state of rest and state of motion, right?
Yes, sir.
So anything that tries to change the state of rest or state of motion of a body, by definition, we call it as a force. That's what we are trying to say, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Parth. So till now, Parth was present. Suddenly, he has left the meeting. Okay. Piyush.
Yeah, yes, sir. So according to me, I think force is, I think pull or push, which changes or like changes the state of rest, state of motion, or also
So you are
the
trying to club first and last point. That's okay.
yes, sir. And also I would say that like it produces acceleration, and like in 11, 12, we have studied that force and acceleration always act in the same direction.
Okay. So are you pointing towards, by any chance, are you pointing towards this?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I wrote that description. Then Praneeth.
Sir, force is a push or pull of an object that changes its velocity, and the object must have some mass.
Object must have some mass. So you are again hinting towards this law, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. What about Sahil?
Sir, I go with the third point.
Third point, change in velocity and change in position. Okay. So we have discussed across each and every student what is your understanding or what is your notion of a force. And now let us try to dig deep into the concept of a force. Now I will go point by point and I will raise the objections. So let us look at the first definition. Force is a pull or push. But again, it is like saying probability is a chance of occurrence. In the word chance itself, there is a probability. So therefore, it is a circular definition. So this is mere play of words that I would say. So if you call the force as pull or push, again, you will have to define what is a pull, what is a push. Then you will say pull is a force which drives the object away from it. Push is the force that tries to have a thrust on the object. But again, all this involves the definition of force. So therefore I would say push and pull may be the nature of the force. It may be regarded as the nature of the force, whether it is a pulling force or pushing force, but it in itself cannot be regarded as a definition. I hope every one of you would agree with this. Now let us go ahead with, so therefore, the moment I put a cross, it doesn't mean that it is something wrong. No, it means that it is partial descriptor of a force, but it in itself cannot be regarded as a definition of a force. Somebody said it is the interaction of two objects, and that's right. So I'm going to give full credit to this definition. Okay, two objects and its interaction, but we will still need to understand it in a deeper way. Somebody said change of velocity, change of position. Somebody said acceleration. Somebody said state of rest or state of motion. So I hope all of them were trying to state Newton's first law, which states that every object continues to remain in its state of rest or of uniform motion unless it is acted upon by an external agency called as force. Now, as a representative, I will ask one of you to unmute so that we can have interactive progression. So Ankush, can you unmute yourself?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So this is Newton's first law. Every object continues to remain in its state of rest or of uniform motion unless it is acted upon by an external agency called as force. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
So this law itself is presented as a definition of a force in many of the texts. So what is the, how do we define a force? As per this law, force is any external agency that tends to change the state of rest or of uniform motion of a body along a straight line. Do you agree with me?
So can you repeat? I actually didn't get it.
Force is any external agency that tends to change the state of rest or of uniform motion of a body along a straight line. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
This is just producing Newton's first law in distorted fashion. We have presented it as a definition of a force. Are you with me?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Now let us first understand this law and then let us raise the objections. Point number one, in the first part of this law, what does it say? Let us say this is a object which is resting on a tabletop, and let us say this surface is frictionless. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Let us say that there is no friction. Now, or that is also not necessary. Let us say there is a friction. Let us say it is a rough surface. And let me say I apply force P here. We are not yet defined force. But now the object does not move in this direction. So object is in the state of rest and it remains in the state of rest under the action of force P. But it tends to change the state of rest. Do you agree with me?
Okay.
It is tending to change the state of rest of the object. It is trying to put the object in motion. So
Okay.
result is immaterial. देखो wording बहुत carefully किया है इस law का. Any external agency that tries to change the state of rest, success is immaterial. Whether it succeeds or not in doing so is immaterial. As long as it is tending to put the object in motion, then we are going to qualify that external agency as a force. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
As per this definition, of course. Now imagine that there is an object in a space which is moving with a uniform velocity. मतलब ना तो magnitude change होगा, ना तो direction change होगा. It is moving with the uniform velocity along a straight line. Any external agency that tends to change either the direction of velocity or the magnitude of velocity, immaterial if it is successful in doing so or not. And as long as it tries to do so, I am going to call it as a force by the second part of this law. Do you agree with me?
Okay, sir. Yes, sir.
So any external agency that tends to change the state of rest or of uniform motion of a body along a straight line, by definition, we call it a force. Now my question to you is, there is a philosophical objection to this definition. The objection is this the definition of force or are these the effects of forces? Are you with me?
Yes, sir. I think it can be the effects of force.
Yes. So any object that is in rest, force is trying to put it in motion. Any
Motion, yeah.
object which is already in motion along a straight line with uniform velocity, anything that tries to change either the magnitude or the or the direction or both of that of
Object.
velocity of that object, that then we are going to qualify it as a force. These are all effects.
Yeah.
Do you agree? And these
Yes.
are few of the effects of a force, mind you. These are not the complete set of effects which a force can cause. These are few of the effects. Now, two patients come to a doctor with similar symptoms, having repeating fever for 15 days. One may be diagnosed of lung disease, another may be diagnosed of COVID-19. Are you with me? The
Yes, sir.
objection is merely looking at the effect. How can you define a cause? You have to do something else, right?
Yeah.
Similarly, you may see a smoke at some distance. The fire may be caused due to burst of a LPG cylinder, or it may be caused due to the short circuit. Merely looking at the effect, you cannot decipher or you cannot define the cause, is the argument.
Yeah.
Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So therefore, these three definitions, though traditionally put forth as definition of a force, they are in fact the statement of Newton's first law. And Newton never tried to define a force. He never tried to define a force. In the first law, he defines effects of forces. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
So if not the first law, let us try second law. So second law, somebody has already pointed out, F equal to m into A. This is in fact incorrect statement of Newton's second law. We will correct it, but this deals with Newton's second law. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
And what is Newton's second law? So therefore, to understand Newton's second law in its correct perspective, I am going to ask you to perform a thought experiment. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Chalo. There is a wall which is fixed to the floor. Happy?
Okay. Yes, sir.
And you are leaning against the wall. You are trying to apply a force on the wall. You are leaning against it. Are you with me?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Though we have not defined a force, but you understand physically that you are applying a force on wall. Agreed?
Yes, sir.
And now I try to define this force by this notion, F equal to m. Let us try to define it. Now, so the force that you apply on the wall, I am going to call that force as F1. Happy?
Okay.
And let us say you are applying it horizontally. So that F1, I have to write it using this equation. Now, question. If I were to write mass, ये mass किसका लिखूं मैं? Should I write the mass of the person who is applying the force? Should I write the mass of wall? Should I write the mass of? Should I substitute the mass of palm of a person which is in contact with wall? किसका mass? बताओ.
The person, mass of the person.
And what is the compelling reason that you choose a person and not a wall?
He will apply all the force to the wall, right? To the palm. So,
And do you think the wall is not applying force on a person?
it's applying the force, but
so what I wanted to point out is, though we write this statement very often, we are not very clear about this statement. There is enough ambiguity कि किसका mass substitute किया जाए. Are you with me?
yes, sir.
Now, second question. If I were to write down the acceleration, and as this F1 is in x direction, so I will write down the x directional acceleration. लेकिन किसका? Again, I have a question. Kiska acceleration? Should I write down the acceleration of wall or acceleration of a person? In this particular case, you will not be able to move the wall. So acceleration of both things are going to be zero. Do you agree with me?
Zero, yeah.
Because the velocity of wall and you is going to be zero and it is going to remain zero. When you apply a force on wall, it will have very small deformation. Till that deformation happens, there will be some acceleration. But after that also, when the wall has come to the equilibrium position under that force, the force remains in existence. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. If it is so, then after the equilibrium has reached, after the deformation of the wall has occurred under force F1, what is the acceleration of wall or a person? दोनों के acceleration zero होंगे क्योंकि velocity
Zero.
है and it remains zero. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
So do even if I have ambiguity कि किसका acceleration यहाँ पे submit करना है, at least in this case I can say दोनों
It's
का
zero.
acceleration zero है कि नहीं?
Yeah. Hmm.
And now I get ridiculous result. The force that I am applying on the wall is zero.
It's zero. Yeah.
And is it so? If you stand there for a day, won't you feel hungry? Won't you consume energy? So aren't you applying force? Are you getting my point?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Getting it.
So therefore, if we are going to write Newton's second law in this fashion, I think he will commit suicide. And unfortunately, most of the books do write this law. I won't blame you, because most of the books do write Newton's second law in this fashion. अब जरा न्यूटन सेकंड लॉ का स्टेटमेंट देखते हैं. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
So what does Newton's second law say? Newton's second law says algebraic sum of all the forces acting on a body in x direction or in a particular direction. It doesn't say the force is equal to mass into acceleration. What it says is unbalanced force, or that means algebraic sum of all the forces acting on a body in a particular direction. In this case, it is x direction. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
So left hand side is not correct. It is not a force. It is unbalanced force in x direction. If you remember it correctly. So unbalanced force का मतलब क्या होता है? जो भी forces body के ऊपर act हो रहे हैं, उसका sum करो, algebraic sum करो, and whatever is its component in x direction, that I am talking about. So algebraic sum of all the forces in x direction must be equal to, and right hand side also is not this one. It is rate of change of momentum of the object in that direction. Do you agree with me?
Yes.
And what is momentum? Momentum is nothing but product of mass into velocity.
Velocity.
So algebraic sum of all the forces in a particular direction on an object, are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Is equal to rate of change of momentum of that object, in that direction. Are you with me?
Yes.
This is what is the scalar representation of Newton's second law. अब जरा मुझे एक चीज बताओ. Does mass remain constant throughout the motion? Is my question. Or throughout the period of observation. Let us say you are observing something. Does mass always remain constant with reference to time?
Not necessarily,
No,
sir.
sir. No, sir.
No, sir.
Not
Exactly.
necessarily.
Exactly. For example, let us consider an example where you are mounting a satellite into its orbital. So therefore, you are going to have a launching vehicle and it sheds off its mass at some height. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
So
sir.
therefore, mass is not going to remain constant. First indication. Second, same example. As the vehicle moves from one height to another, it consumes thousands of gallons of fuel per second. How can mass remain constant? Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
So therefore, it is not obviously necessary that mass should remain constant throughout the observation period in which you are applying Newton's second law. No. There are situations where mass does not remain constant with reference to time. In that case, you will have to apply chain rule. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
राइट हैंड साइड इवेल्युएट करने के लिए आपको चेन रूल अप्लाई करना पड़ेगा. एंड हाउ विल यू अप्लाई चेन रूल? dm by dt into vx plus m into dvx by dt. ऐसे होगा, राइट?
Yes, sir.
Now, fortunately, as this is the first course in mechanics, we are going to deal with the situations where mass can be assumed constant throughout the observation period. So if it is so, if we are going to deal with only that class of problems, then can I take the mass outside the differentiation sign? Yes. And in that case, it becomes dvx by dt. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
And dvx by dt is nothing but acceleration in x direction. So in this context, when mass is constant, I have made two corrections to Newton's second law statement, which is written in this format. क्या corrections है? Left hand side is modified. Left hand side is unbalanced force
Unbalanced. Yeah.
on an object. ये भी लिखा मैंने. I simply did not write mathematical expression. I also wrote the phrase on an object. Do you agree?
Yes, sir.
So summation of all the forces in x direction on an object under consideration is equal to mass into acceleration of that object in that direction, provided mass is constant throughout the time. इतनी बकबक करोगे तो समझेगा कि ये न्यूटन सेकंड लॉ का करेक्ट स्टेटमेंट है. Are you with me?
Yes.
Now let us apply this statement to the problem under consideration. तो अब जरा देखो, the moment I add a phrase on an object, it is but mandatory for me to define an object on which I am considering the force. Do you agree with me?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
तो ये जो सवाल था ना कि मास किसका, पर्सन का या वॉल का, that gets vanished because that will get vanished because you are going to now define the object on which the force is acting. Happy?
Yes.
हाँ, तो पहले डिफाइन करते हैं. दिस इज द ऑब्जेक्ट, वॉल इज द ऑब्जेक्ट अंडर कंसिडरेशन. ओके, सो नाउ व्हाट आई एम गोइंग टू डू इज आई एम गोइंग टू ड्रॉ ए वॉल एंड आई एम गोइंग टू शो ऑल द फोर्सेस एक्टिंग ऑन ए वॉल. आर यू विथ मी? तो कौन कौन से फोर्सेस हैं? द फोर्स अप्लाइड बाय द पर्सन ऑन द वॉल, सो दैट इज F1. डू यू एग्री विथ मी?
Yes, sir.
And the floor is also offering a reaction on the wall. Do you agree with me?
Yeah. Yes.
And that reaction will be equal to F1 because the wall is not moving. We have not yet discussed equilibrium, but the moment we say wall is not moving, it is our intuition that this reaction must be equal to F1. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
Now tell me, what is algebraic sum of all the forces acting on a wall in x direction? So on an object means on wall. तो वो क्या है जरा बताओ. It is going to be plus F1 क्योंकि ये towards right है. Towards right is positive, हमने x ऐसे डिफाइन किया है, और ये होगा minus F1. Do you agree with me?
So we can't write that. Okay.
Why?
So minus F1 plus F1.
Yes. You have to write all the forces, immaterial, whether the forces are active or reactive. न्यूटन ने कभी बोला है सेकंड लॉ में कि फोर्सेस रिएक्टिव होने चाहिए या एक्टिव होने चाहिए? He simply said algebraic sum of all the forces acting on a body or unbalanced force. That means you have to consider all the forces, active as well as reactive. Are you with me?
Yes. Yes.
So F1 minus F1. So what is the algebraic sum of all the forces acting on a wall? 0. Happy?
0.
And this must be equal to mass now of the wall of the object. Do you agree with me?
Yes.
Multiplied by acceleration in x direction of the wall. And acceleration in x direction of the wall is 0. 0 equal to 0. Trivial identity, we are satisfied. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
The point what I was trying to make is, first we understood Newton's second law in a deeper way. We made corrections to this statement, which is floated as Newton's second law in many of the books, but we have to modify it in this fashion. Are you with me? And second point that I'm trying to make is, Newton's second law tells you how the algebraic sum of forces is related to mass and acceleration, but it never spells out what is a force. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
So neither Newton's first law nor Newton's second law, they are not even attempting to define a force. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Now what about, so let us try our luck with Newton's third law. What is Newton's third law? Can you tell me?
Every action has an equal and opposite reaction.
Yes, so every action has an equal and opposite reaction is Newton's third law. And of course, this law does not talk about the definition of force. It is quite clear. Do you agree with me?
Yes.
Chalo. Newton's third law also does not clearly specify what a force is. So Newton never attempted to define a force. We have to understand that. He just defined what are the effects of forces, how the algebraic sum of forces is related to mass and acceleration, and what is the relationship between the force transfer between one body to other and that other body to the first one. इतना ही define किया है. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so still our question is unanswered. What is a force? तो आप जरा देखो, आप अगर अच्छे बुक्स रेफर करोगे, like Beer and Johnson, Vector Mechanics by Beer and Johnson, then you will get the classical definition of force in Newtonian mechanics. By the way, I am again telling you that that definition is valid in Newtonian mechanics and not relativistic mechanics by Einstein. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
As this is the first course in mechanics, we are going to learn Newtonian mechanics. And in Newtonian mechanics, force is defined as action of one body on the another. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Action of one body on another. This is the simple definition of force. Nothing more, nothing less. Now, question is, how can such a simple definition surpass all the other descriptors of force? Are you with me? तो जरा
Yes.
ये definition को समझने की कोशिश करते हैं. So somebody had said that it is the interaction between two objects. I am quite happy to have received this response. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
So now action of one body on the other. Whenever you define something by a statement, you have to read between the lines. वो definition में जो बोला है उससे ज्यादा कभी-कभी अहमियत रखता है जो नहीं बोला है. Are you with me? So for example, when I say force is action of one body on the other, did I say whether the bodies are in contact or they are not in contact? इसके बारे में कुछ बोला है?
नहीं.
Nice.
No.
So it means it is absolutely not necessary that the bodies should remain in contact for existence of a force. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
Can you give me the example of forces where the bodies are not in contact? Contact is not necessary.
Electric field on a charged particle.
Excellent. So magnetic force, electromagnetic force. Are you with me? Magnetic, electromagnetic. All these forces, they are experienced due to electromagnetic fields or magnetic fields. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
Electromagnetic force. Here, you need not have the bodies in contact. For example, you have a pin, iron pin, and you have a magnet. Till the time the pin attaches itself to the magnet, the force is prevalent, but their bodies are not in contact. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other example of such kind of force?
Gravitational force.
No.
Excellent. So let us say I drop a chalk piece from a height till the time it comes into contact with the earth. Gravitational force does prevail between them. For example, at this moment, the moon and earth are not in contact, but gravitational force does prevail between them. Nobody can counter that. Are you with me? So therefore, gravitational force is another example. Are you with me? Ankush?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. So the first point that this definition implicitly tells is it is not necessary that the two bodies have to have a contact for existence of a force between them. What is the other thing that this definition tells? If there is an isolated body, that means there is no other body. Can there be force?
Yes, sir.
Ankur?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
No.
Yes, sir.
No, when I define action of one body on the other, unless and until there is another body, there is no meaning of a term force. Do you agree with me?
So then what about force due to an electric field?
Exactly. So to experience that force, you need to have some body within the electromagnetic field. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So अगर है भी हम interested नहीं है. So when I define the force as action of one body on the other, we are talking only about the forces which do prevail or which do exist on account of two bodies. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
So therefore, two bodies are absolutely essential. Now throughout this course, whenever you are going to show the forces, those forces you have to in your mind imagine what are the two bodies in which this force transfer is going to take place. Are you with me? The bodies may not be explicitly seen, but by this definition, it is mandatory that you must have two bodies to have a force. Are you with me?
Yes.
Okay. चलो अब आगे चलते हैं. There is one more thing which is very implicitly said, or may not be, there is a hint of that, but it is not said. When you say action of one body on the other, will other body keep quiet? It will also take action on the first one. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
For example, let us say I try to slap myself, but if my face is moving with the same velocity as my hand, I won't be able to slap. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
So therefore, when I say action of one body on other, that statement itself hints at the reaction by other body on the first. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
So therefore, this statement also implicitly tells that the forces seldom exist in isolation. They won't exist in isolation. They will exist in pairs. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
So force, it exists in pairs. एक बॉडी ने दूसरे ऊपर फोर्स लगाया है तो दूसरे बॉडी ने पहले वो
दूसरा भी लगाया।
फोर्स उतना ही लगाना ही चाहिए by Newton's third law. And that hint is indirectly given here, because when you say action of one body on the other, you should be in a position to take that body should be in a position to take the action on another. That means another body has to provide reaction, then only the action is possible. Action and reaction, they come into existence simultaneously, so forces do prevail in pairs and they do not prevail in isolation. Are you with me?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
So this completes the entire discussion which is required for this course based on the concept of force. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
I would have dropped this discussion if you have had the first lecture of mechanics. But unless this discussion is done, I cannot go ahead. Therefore, I have taken this discussion up. Now, let us look at the name of the practical. It says reaction of beams. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
And so there are two words. One is reaction and another is beam. So next in line is we need to define what do we mean by beam, and we also need to define what do we mean by reaction. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now Ankush, you were unmuted for long. Now you can go on mute. I will ask someone else. So Dhruv, can you unmute yourself?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So now let us try to define a beam. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste few pictures here. Acha, Dhruv, you have some disturbance at your hand. You can mute. I will ask Piyush to unmute. Piyush, can you unmute?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now I'm going to put few pictures here and you are going to tell me intuitively which of the element is called as beam. Are you with me?
Okay,
I'm going to dwell on your intuition, and then the way we have defined force, we will define beam by interaction. We are not going to have any bookish definition. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
So just a second. Let me gather a few pictures. Yeah. Are you able to see the picture of a ongoing construction?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now I'm going to point towards few of the members and you are going to tell me, should I call them beam? So for example, let us have this member. Is it a beam?
Yes, sir.
No, sir.
No. Okay. So this is not a beam. That's the correct answer. We call this as column. Are you with me? It is column. Okay. Now, do you see that there is a floor here? So can I call this floor as a beam? No. We call that as a slab. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Now, can I call this as a beam? This member?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So all of us are aware which of the members are called as beams. So based on this intuition, now once again, now I'm not going to ask everyone. I will request everyone. I will request most of you to unmute one by one and tell me what is your understanding of a beam. अब beam को कैसे define करोगे? We can start with Piyush.
According to me, it's like something which is carrying like a load or some on it.
Carrying a load. So I'm going to write down what you say. Carrying a load. Okay. Anyone else? Okay, don't make me take the name.
Support system of a structure.
Support system. Support system. Okay. Anyone else who wants to add anything? You can have a look at this and you can tell me. support system. Yes, go ahead. I'm waiting for responses. Okay, just give me a second. I need to take this call. Just a second. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, anyone wants to add something?
Sir, it can also be an important part of framework.
Okay, so important constituent of a framework.
Yes.
Sir, it also necessarily must be horizontal.
Okay. Framework. Then somebody said it needs to be horizontal. Okay. Anything else?
Weight balancing.
There was some disturbance. Can you come again? I could hear the term load balancing. That's all. You can type your response in chat box. There is some disturbance. Load balance. You can type the description in chat box. Load balancing of if anyone else is able to hear him, can you please tell me what he's saying? Because I get some
Sir, I think he's saying load balancing of floor slab.
of floor slab. Okay. Yeah. Anyone else?
Sir, its shape is like a rod.
Shaped like a rod. Okay. Anyone else? Fine. So we have many descriptors of this beam, and same strategy I am going to follow. We are going to consider each of these descriptors. Okay, somebody, beam is a structural design made up of, just 1 minute, I lost it. A beam is a structural design made up of hard material and mixtures to provide support to the floor slab. So new description is something about material. So by hard, I think he means strong and stiff. Strong and stiff material. Real and mixtures. So I think he is referring to he is referring to the concrete and steel mixture. Okay, and to provide the support to the floor slab, that I have already written. So support system is there and load balance for floor slab is already there. So that's what Ankush said. Okay. So now these are the descriptors of beam. We will take up one by one. So somebody said it is carrying a load. तो अब जरा एक काम करते हैं. Let us try to understand what is the load path of a building. So now for that I need Piyush to unmute himself. Piyush, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. So now, can you tell me which is the first part of the building on which your load gets transferred? Right now, if you are sitting on a chair, the chair rests on what? Tell me.
The floor.
Yes. So the very first part on which the load is transferred is these floor slabs of different level. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
So I am talking about the load path in a building. Load path in a building. So a typical building will have this load path. So your load is transferred to the floor first. Then from floors, where does it get transferred? Look at this diagram and tell me. Yes, Piyush.
So the columns of the previous floor.
Columns of the previous floor, no. Floor slab is resting on what? ये जो floor slab आपको दिख रहा है, ये किसके ऊपर rest कर रहा है? Isn't it resting on the beams? Do you agree with me?
Sir.
Floor slab is resting on beams. So the load then goes.
I don't see how.
Yes, go ahead.
Sir, shouldn't the floor slab be seated on the columns?
No. Column and beam interaction is a part of one support point for the slab. So for example, if I draw a plan of this slab, are you with me? So these are the places where columns are prevalent. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
But these are only 4 points. Along all the length, beam is present. Let me call this beam as B1, B2, B3, and B4. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
You can do a experiment. You can have 4 sticks at these 4 locations. On that, you can have a double bed sheet and put some object on the double bed sheet. As long as you only have 4 sticks, the load will be directly transferred to the sticks. But now imagine that these 4 sticks are joined by horizontal sticks like this. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Put the bed sheet on that and put some load. Now, is the load going to get transferred directly to the columns, or first of all, it is going to get transferred to this length of the beams, and finally, through these sticks which are connected to the column at this location, it is going to get transferred to the column. Are you able to visualize?
Yes, sir.
So therefore, the load does not directly go to the column. It is not intended to directly go to the column. It goes to beam first. Are you with me? So floor जो होता है, that floor, I will try to draw a 3D view. देखो, ये है आपका floor, जिसका thickness होगा 100 mm या फिर 110 mm, something like this. Are you with me? Piyush, are you there?
Yes, sir, I'm there.
Yeah. And you have a beam which looks something like this. So beam depth is greater than the floor depth. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
And if I have to draw the 3D view correctly, this line won't be visible. You will not be able to see the distinction between the slab and beam. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
You will just see the projection. So this is how it looks like, system looks like. Are you with me? You will not even be able to see this line. This line has to be dotted because it talks about the edge of, it talks about this edge. Okay, let me draw it correctly. It talks about this edge between the slab and beam. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Are you able to imagine this? So now whatever load you put here, that load is first transferred to the beam. This beam in turn is connected to columns. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
So floor, and mind you, this beam is present, let us say, on all 4 sides. So therefore, floor to beam, beam to, what is the next load? Tell me, next member in the path. The beam transfers the load to column. Happy? Piyush?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Then what about the column? Where does this column go?
To the floor of the lower level.
No, that column even continues beyond that. So the part of the structure that we see above the ground, we call it as superstructure. So columns are visible till this point, but within the ground, they go down, and we call that part as substructure. Are you with me?
Oh, okay, sir.
Yes,
And
sir.
then this column has a support. That support we call it as footing. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
So it will be either this way, or there are varieties, but I will call this as footing. So all the load on the column is transferred to what? It is transferred to footing. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
And or foundation. We call it as foundation. And then from foundation, where is the load ultimately transferred?
Hello.
It is transferred to the strata. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
So it is transferred to strata. This is the load path. अब जरा मुझे बताओ, if I look at the floor, isn't beam the support of the floor slab? Do you agree with me?
Sorry, sir. Can you repeat?
फ्लोर स्लैब से लोड कहाँ पे जा रहा है? बीम्स के ऊपर जा रहा है ना?
Yes, sir.
So do beams act as a support to the floor slab?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So beam supports floor slab. Happy? Okay. What about column? Column supports beam. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
The column supports beam. What about footing? It supports column. Happy?
Yes, sir.
And strata, Mother Earth, it supports foundation. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
तो वैसे देखा जाए तो each element, your weight is directly supported by floor slab. So your chair is supported by floor slab. So floor slab is support to something. Beam is support to floor slab. Column is support to beam. Footing is support to column. And strata is support to the foundation. So each element in this line can be regarded as support to something. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
Having said that, if I define beam as a support system which carries load, these definitions are going to fall short because floor slab carries the load from chair or from all whatever you keep on the floor. Beam carries the load of floor slab. Column carries the load of beam. Footing carries the load from column. Strata carries the load from footing. तो वैसे देखा जाए तो every member is carrying some load. Do you agree with me? Do you
Yes,
agree with
sir.
me? And every member in this line, load path line, can be regarded as support to something else. So everything is support system. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
So therefore, if I only toss these two words, that beam is a member that carries load or it is a support system to floor slab, won't be enough. Are you with me? It will not distinguish these members from all other members in the buildings or other kind of structures like bridges. Happy?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, important part of framework, everything is important. For example, if there is no floor slab, you will fall down. If there is no beam, the floor slab will come down. If there is no column, तो मुश्किल ही है. Are you with me? So therefore,
Yes, sir.
we cannot say that it is an important part of framework. It is one of the important parts of framework. That I agree. Are you with me? But that will not define a beam. So this is no doubt true, but it will not define what is a beam. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
Now let us look at the another word tossed by someone, horizontal. I will keep mum on this for time being. Once we define the beam, we will come back to this. Are you with me? So let us keep it in gray area for now. Somebody said lower balance for floor slab. Yes, that's true. That's the correct descriptor of a beam. It supports floor slab. Yeah, that's okay. But still, there is some important technical part missing in the definition of beam. It is shaped like a rod, not necessarily. You can have beams of various shapes. Are you with me? You can even have the beams shaped like this, T-shaped beams. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
So therefore, it is not necessarily shaped like a rod. Typically,
नीचे में आता हूँ ना.
pardon?
बंद कर दो.
Yeah, Piyush, are you there?
Yes, sir. That was not my mic.
Okay. So now it is not necessarily shaped like a rod. So this descriptor is not correct. Then we say that it is made up of strong and stiff material and some mixture. Okay, but we do not define anything as beam or column depending upon the material, because if you see, the same material has been used for columns and beams. Are you with me, Piyush?
Yes, sir.
So therefore, this point is also not correct. You can have beams made up of various materials, but that does not define what a beam is in itself.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now let us try to define what do we mean by beam. Just give me a second. Yeah, sorry. So let us go ahead. Now, to define a beam, I am going to take a digress. Digress का मतलब होता है changing the topic. So I am going to take a digress and I am going to show you I am going to ask you to visualize two objects. One is pen and another is notebook. Piyush, are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And now I am going to toss various objects around you. You are going to classify them in one of the two categories, whether it is a pen-like structure or whether it is a notebook-like structure. Are you with me?
Okay, sir.
Okay,
Okay.
sir.
So tube light, what kind of structure it is? Is it a pen-like structure or notebook-like structure?
Sir, it's a pen-like structure.
Great.
Pen-like
So
structure.
I will mention it here, tube light. Happy? Okay. Now, computer screen or screen of
Notebook.
laptop. Bolo?
Notebook-like structure.
Notebook like.
Notebook.
Okay. So screen of laptop. Okay. Tabletop.
The notebook.
Notebook like structure.
Notebook.
Sir, I think you've muted yourself.
Yeah, there was some noise here, so I muted. So tabletop like structure. It is notebook like structure, right? Now, railing of the chair. Am I
Pen.
audible?
Pen-like structure.
Pen-like
Pen-like
structure.
structure. So railing of a chair. Typically, I am not talking about the chairs uh, which have very broad railings. नहीं, मैं normal chair की बात कर रहा हूँ. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, window glass.
Notebook like
Like
structure.
Notebook-like structure.
Great. So it comes here. Then let me talk about beam. हमने beam तो define नहीं किया, but आपको समझा ना? You could identify this as a
Pen-like
beam.
structure.
yes,
Yes.
sir. Pen
Very
like
good.
structure.
What about
Pen-
column?
Pen like
Column.
structure.
Yes.
Pen-like structure.
Okay. What about floor slab?
The floor slab is
Notebook.
notebook.
Notebook like structure.
Excellent. So floor slab. Now, so can you distinguish between these two types of structure? Can you mathematically define or geometrically define what do we mean by pen-like structure and what do we mean by notebook-like structure? Define
Sir,
those.
items that are regarded as being in one dimension are called pen-like structures, and items that are in two dimensions are called notebook-like structures.
Absolutely correct. So therefore, whenever you have objects whose one dimension is dominant over the other two orthogonal dimensions, then we call these structures as 1D structures. Are you with me? One
Yes, sir.
dimension is dominant over the other two orthogonal directions, 1D structures. These are also called as skeletal structures. Skeletal. Why do we call them as skeletal? Look at most of your bones. Most of the bones have the property of one dimension being dominant over the other two orthogonal directions. So therefore, these structures are also called as skeletal structures, 1D or skeletal structures. What about notebook-like structures? They have their two dimensions dominant over the third orthogonal direction. So thickness के ऊपर बाकी के दो directions हावी होते हैं. So we call these structures as 2D structures. Are you with me? Or we also call them as planar structures.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So 2D or planar structures. So these are the classification of various structures around us. Just give me a second. So 1D or 2D structures, these are the two types of structures that are available around us. Are you with me?
Yes,
Of
sir.
course, there are structures which have all the three dimensions dominant, like a earth dam. So in that case, we call them as 3D structures. But right now, can you tell me, beam is which kind of structures amongst this 1D structure? So what is the first descriptor of beam? So beam के definition में सबसे पहला point कौन सा होगा? It is a 1D or a skeletal member. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
1D or a skeletal member. दिस इज द फर्स्ट डिस्क्रिप्टर ऑफ ए बीम. सो अगर आपको ऐसा कोई मेंबर दिखा कि जो 2D या 3D है, तो ऑब्वियसली वो बीम नहीं है. आर यू विथ मी?
Yes, sir.
So
Yes,
by
sir.
definition, we define only that class of a structure as a beam, which is 1D. Acha, is it sufficient point to be anything to be regarded as beam? Answer is no, because even the column, as I said, that is also a 1D structure. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
So therefore ये required तो है descriptor, लेकिन sufficient नहीं है. So what else are we going to add? So to understand that, what I am going to do is I am going to draw the way in which the force is acting on a column. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
तो दोनों members के ऊपर मैं force कैसे act होता है वो दिखाता हूँ. Let us say we have not yet defined what is beam and what is column, but I am going to show the forces acting on these two members. Before that, I am going to continue with the digress, and I am going to define something called as axis of a skeletal member. Are you with me? Axis
Yes, sir.
of a skeletal member. Mind you, the first practical, as it is the first lecture, I have to give all these descriptions. Otherwise, you will not appreciate the experiment that we are going to do. So, axis of a skeletal member or axis of a 1D member. तो मुझे बताओ, अगर 1D मेंबर पे मैंने एक पॉइंट लिया, तो उसमें से कितने एक्सेस पास होते हैं? बोलो.
Sir, दो.
If I choose this point on a skeletal member, how many axes do pass through this point? Tell me.
One horizontal and one vertical.
Why can't there be inclined axis? There are infinite axes that can pass through a point under consideration. Would you agree with me?
हाँ, sir.
Yes, sir.
So therefore, if there are infinite axes that can pass through a point on a 1D or skeletal member, which of them should be regarded as the axis of a skeletal member is the question that we are trying to answer. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, so to define that, I am going to define another term which is called as cross section. So how do we define cross section of a skeletal member? तो जरा देखो, cross section. Section taken across the greatest dimension. Section taken across the length is called as cross section by definition. So if I cut this 1D object such that I take a section across its greatest dimension, which is regarded as length. Are you with me? अगर मैंने ऐसे section ले लिया, so what do I see? Probably I will see a rectangular section. So I will call this as section XX. So section XX will be seen as a rectangle. You can as well see it as a circular one. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
So by definition, we call section taken across the length of a 1D or skeletal member as cross section. Happy?
Yes, sir.
Now tell me, how many cross sections do prevail in a 1D member? कितने cross sections होंगे? Infinite, because I can go on changing this XX from 0 to L. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
Now, question is, can you locate centroid of these cross sections? Yes, easily. You are equipped with the knowledge of 11th and 12th, where you can locate the centroids of various figures. So if this is a cross section, I will be able to locate its centroid as intersection of diagonals. The centroid of this circular cross section will be its center. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Can I locate the centroid of all the cross sections? Yes. Can I draw a line that joins the centroid of all the cross sections? Yes. That line will be parallel to the length, and that by definition is regarded as the axis of skeletal member. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So what is the definition of axis of a skeletal member? It is a line joining centroids of all the cross sections, where cross section is section taken across the length. Happy?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. अब जरा मुझे, now I will try to come back to the definition of beam and column. tell me, how do we load these members? How do we load these 1D members? किस तरीके से लोड किया जा सकता है? Can we load them along the axis? Are you with me? मतलब देखो, मैंने यहाँ पे एक फोर्स लगाया P और एक फोर्स लगाया P. So is it the loading along the axis? Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
Similarly, can I have loading along the axis but pulling in nature?
Yes, sir.
ऐसे भी तो हो सकता है. Do you agree with me? Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Now, you can have an inclined member which is loaded along the axis like this. Happy? Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
तो अब जरा देखो, depending upon the nature of load along the axis, we define them as a separate members. जैसे ये inclined member है जिसके ऊपर ये P और P दोनों pulling nature के हैं, तो हम ऐसे member को बोलते हैं tie. Are you with me? You can imagine when you try to tie one point to the other, the string gets stretched. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
You can imagine the string of a bow when you are pulling the arrow towards your ears. So that string gets stretched. It is tying the two ends of the bow. Are you with me?
हाँ sir.
Yes, sir.
तो इसको हम बोलते हैं tie. If you have an inclined member, ये inclined member है जिसके ऊपर force along the axis है, but that force tries to compress the member. ऐसे member को हम बोलते हैं strut. क्या बोलेंगे? बोलो. Strut.
Right.
So what is a strut? Any inclined member जिसके एक्सिस के 1D मेंबर, इंक्लाइन मेंबर जिसके एक्सिस के अलोंग फोर्स है, लेकिन फोर्स कौन से नेचर का है? कंप्रेसिव नेचर का है. आर यू विथ मी? Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So we call such member as a strut. अगर यही member को हम just give me a second. Okay, so now if we make this member vertical and we have force along the axis, then we call such member as column. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
So what is a column? Column is a 1D or skeletal member which is loaded in compression along its axis and its orientation is vertical. Happy?
Yes, sir.
Are you with me? Okay.
Yes, sir.
हाँ, अब और कौन सा तरीका है इस मेंबर को लोड करने का? Now if you have a member and you are loading across its axis, happy? इसका एक्सिस कौन सा है? ये वाला है. And you are loading it across the axis, ऐसे मेंबर को बोला जाता है बीम. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
So what is the definition of beam? Beam के definition में दो points है. कौन कौन से? It is a 1D or skeletal member loaded transverse to its axis. Transverse to its axis. Happy? Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So फिर से एक बार बताता हूँ. What is a beam? Beam is any structural member which is 1D or skeletal and essentially loaded across its axis, or it is loaded normal to its length. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
अब मैं क्या करने वाला हूँ? I am going to switch on my camera for some time and I am going to show you the situations and you are going to tell me whether it is beam, column, strut, tie, whatever it is. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
So
sir.
let me know if I am visible. Are you able to see me?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
So now अब जरा यहाँ पे ध्यान दो. I am trying to pull this apart. हाँ. So what kind of member it is? Yes, it
Tie.
is tie. If I am going to try and push it, what kind of member it is?
It's a strut.
Strut.
Strut. Now
Column.
column. Are you with me? अब जरा यहाँ पे ध्यान दो. This is the member, and I am putting it this way. Tell me.
It's a beam.
Yes, so it's beam. So किसी ने तो बोला था कि horizontal होना चाहिए. That is absolutely not essential condition. Are you with me? So beam need not necessarily be horizontal. It can be oriented in any way as long as it is loaded normal to its length or normal to its axis. It is going to be beam. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
अब
sir.
जरा ये example देखो. What it is? I am trying to push it. It is strut, right? अब जरा यहाँ पे ध्यान दो. I am trying to push this member. I am trying to push this member. That means I am trying to put it in compression along the axis, and I am applying this load. Up.
Beam.
So such kind of member, we either call it as a column beam or beam column, depending upon which action is dominant. Are you with me?
Okay, sir.
Now I'm switching off my video. So I think you have now understood what a beam is. So beam अगर बताना है तो साथ साथ में बाकी के elements भी बताने पड़ते हैं तो समझता है कि beam कौन सा है exactly. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
So beam is a 1D or skeletal member which is loaded transverse to its axis. Happy? चलो अब हम last part पे आएंगे and that is reaction. Do you need a 5-minute break?
No, sir.
Or should we continue? Okay, so let us continue. So now I am going to talk something about reaction. So what is a reaction? So can you define what is reaction? जरा आप ही बताओ. Reaction मतलब क्या?
Immediate response to a force exerted on a body.
Immediate response. Response
To a force exerted on a body.
to a force. Okay. Anyone else? Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, change in properties of a body.
Change in properties.
Equal and opposite reaction force on the first body as described by Newton's third law of motion.
So equal and opposite to action, right? Anyone else? Can you give me more descriptors of the reaction? Okay, so that's fair enough. Now I am going to define what is reaction. So अब जरा देखो, when I say reaction, first of all I have to understand who is going to offer it. तो जो भी चीज बॉडी के ऊपर रिएक्शन ऑफर करती है उसको हम बोलते हैं सपोर्ट. Are you with me? Piyush, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now let us shift to someone else. So I will ask now Arnav to unmute. Arnav, can you unmute?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So anything that produces a reaction on a body, we are going to call it as support. तो अब जरा एक example मैं consider करता हूँ. I am going to show a body. Mind you, this is not a biology class and this is not a amoeba. So whenever I am not interested in shape and size of the body, I just want to say that there is a body. At that time, I am going to show the bodies in this fashion. So it simply means is shape and size of the body is immaterial. Are you with me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So this can be a bicycle wheel, this can be a tabletop, this can be a computer screen, this can be a four-wheeler, this can be bus, whatever it is. I am not interested in its shape and size. So therefore, I am showing the body this way.
Sir, can you please repeat the definition of support?
That's what I am doing. Who was that? Okay. So Acha, Arnav, what you can do is you can mute yourself and you can unmute only when you are answering,
Okay, sir.
so that we don't have the disturbance. Yeah. So this is a body under consideration, and we can show external forces acting on a body. What are the various types of forces that we will discuss little later? But these are the external forces: F1, F2, F3, F4, up to Fn. So there are n external forces acting on a body, and these are external actions. That means there are other bodies associated with each of these force. This F1 may be by one body, F2 may be by another body, F3 may be by another body, F4, F5, F6 may be by one body, another body, so on and so forth. So we have various other bodies that do exert forces F1 to Fn on this body under consideration. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So these are the forces. These are called as active forces. And this body, even before the existence of all these forces, was resting on something like this. Let us say it was resting on some other object. Are you with me?
Yes,
So
sir.
this may be a mountain or something else. Are you with me? So this is support. Dekho, even before the other forces come into the existence, this body was resting on another object. And whenever there are external forces acting like this, at every point of contact, this body is going to offer a reaction. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
So anything that offers a reaction, we qualify it as a support. Are you with me?
Yes.
एक्सटर्नल एक्शंस ऑफर करने वाले बॉडीज और सपोर्ट ऑफर करने वाला बॉडी दोनों भी जो बॉडी अंडर कंसिडरेशन है उससे अलग ही है. The body that we are considering is separate from both the thing that offers reaction and the thing that takes action. एक्शन लेने वाले बॉडीज अलग है, सपोर्ट ऑफर करने वाला बॉडी अलग है, और जो बॉडी अंडर कंसिडरेशन है जिसके ऊपर ये एक्शन और रिएक्शन का खेल चल रहा है वो भी अलग है. आर यू विथ मी?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we have in the process what we have asked, what we have defined is who offers the reaction. Okay, then how much is the reaction? If that is the question that I have to answer, the reaction should be such that the body should remain in equilibrium. तो equilibrium क्या है वो जानना पड़ेगा. So we are going to answer that subsequently, so we will keep quiet about that. So how much should be the reaction will be defined by the conditions of equilibrium. Are you with me? Now the next question that I must answer to define reaction is, what kind of reactions can a support offer? I am not answering the question how much, I am answering the question what kind of reactions. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so to answer that question we will take a small digress जहां पे मैं आपको बताऊंगा what is the cause and effect pair. तो cause and effect का pair क्या है वो मैं आपको सबसे पहले बताऊंगा. So if you have force acting on a body, then what is the effect? The effect on the body is translation in the direction of the force. मतलब क्या वो मैं ड्रॉ करके आपको दिखाऊंगा. या फिर for this session let me put my video on, let me know if you are able to see me. Are you able to see me?
Yes, sir.
Sir.
तो ट्रांसलेशन का मतलब क्या है देखो, if I apply a force like this and all points on the body move by the same distance, we call this as translation in the direction of the force. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
So एक इफेक्ट क्या है फोर्स का? ट्रांसलेशन इन द डायरेक्शन ऑफ द फोर्स. और क्या इफेक्ट हो सकता है? इमेजिन दैट दिस फोर्स इज accompanied by another force here, so there is going to be the contraction, but it is again in the direction of the force. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. This contraction is the relative deformation between the 2 points. Contraction. So what are the effects of forces? Force can produce either a translation, it can produce contraction, or it can produce extension. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
The force के effect क्या है? Extension, contraction और translation. Happy?
हाँ, sir.
अब जरा यहाँ पे ध्यान दो, व्हाट इज दिस, ये क्या है बताओ?
Sir,
What's a-
impulse.
नहीं, ये क्या हुआ? अच्छा, ये क्या हो रहा है? इज इट ए ट्रांसलेशन और इज इट ए रोटेशन?
Sir, but that's not a force, it's torque, right?
Yes, so that's what I am coming to. So rotation अगर हम इफेक्ट देखते हैं तो रोटेशन किसका इफेक्ट है? Please stop using word torque, though you are acquainted in 11th 12th standard to use the word torque, but here what we will call it as a moment of a force. Are you with me?
Okay, sir.
तो इसको हम क्या बोलेंगे? मोमेंट ऑफ ए फोर्स. अब अगर मैं मोमेंट ऑफ ए फोर्स अप्लाई करता हूं तो दो इफेक्ट्स है, एक तो बॉडी ट्रांसलेट भी होगा और रोटेट भी होगा. Imagine that this body is in vacuum and I apply a force like this. So it is going to translate as well as it is going to rotate. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
But I am not talking about that moment. अब जरा देखो, दो forces है, equal and opposite. One force is upward, another force is downward. Their lines of actions are parallel. It is going to cause pure rotation of the body at the place. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
हाँ, तो इसको क्या बोला जाता है? मोमेंट ऑफ कपल ऑफ फोर्सेस, और इसको ही हम बोलेंगे कपल मोमेंट. आर यू विथ मी? Couple moment. We will not use the term torque. Torque is used for something else. So therefore couple moment. Couple moment मतलब क्या? Two equal and opposite forces. They do not make the body to translate. They just make the body to rotate. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
So therefore, rotation is associated with moment. Happy?
Yes.
तो अब जरा देखेंगे कि रिएक्शन कौन कौन से टाइप के हो सकते हैं. तो रिएक्शन दो टाइप के हो सकते हैं. एक है फोर्स रिएक्शन, आर यू विथ मी, और दूसरा है कपल मोमेंट रिएक्शन. सो इट कैन बी अ मोमेंट रिएक्शन और ए फोर्स रिएक्शन. हैप्पी?
हाँ सर.
Okay, and now what we are going to do is we are going to discuss various types of supports and what is their capability, what kind of reactions can they offer. ये question हम discuss करने वाले हैं. But as this is a first class, I think it will be too heavy to discuss because all this was the theoretical part. So what we will do is we will stop here for today. In the next class, first thing that we are going to do is we are going to discuss various supports and what are the various reactions that these supports can offer. That is the first point of discussion. Then we are going to discuss Newton's second law and equilibrium. And once we are done with this, we are directly going to go towards the first experiment. Are you with me?
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
So with this, we conclude the technical discussion for today. But there are two things that I want to tell you. Shortly, I'm going to create a Google Classroom where H4 and H3 batches will join. वहाँ पे आपको क्या करना है? I'm going to give you the manual जिसमें सब experiments का theory and observation table everything is given. You don't have to write that. आपको उसको write नहीं करना है. Are you with me? You are not going to write anything of that. You are going to just go through it. हर एक experiment के बाद पीछे कुछ questions दिए हैं. You are going to type the answers to those questions either in Word format or you can write it and take the snapshot. These questions are to be uploaded as the exercise on each of the experiments, along with the observation tables. Observation tables I am going to provide you, and you are going to do the calculations and you are going to write down the conclusions. So what are the deliverables? What are you going to submit for each of the experiment? Once the discussion of the experiment is over, I will give you the observation table. You are going to go through the write-up. Then you are going to write down answers to the questions which are given on the backside of the experiment. Then you are going to do the calculations. You are going to write the conclusions. So this one PDF for each experiment you are going to upload. I will make the provision for that in Google Classroom. So this is what the deliverable is. Are you very clear on this? Please unmute and let me know.
Sir,
Yes, sir.
what about graphs and other diagrams?
What about?
What about the graphs and other diagrams we may have to do?
So diagrams you don't have to do, graphs you will have to do. So based on the observations, you will do calculations or graph. Those graphs you can draw it on manually on a graph paper or you can use Excel. Are you
Yes,
with
sir.
me? Yeah. Okay. So this was about the first class. Uh, let us stop here. While leaving the class, as many of you have written down your PRN number and name, that's all right. That is for attendance. Before leaving the class, also give me your feedback on the speed of delivery, whether I can go little faster, audio and video quality. ये दोनों के ऊपर feedback देके आप class leave कर सकते हो.
Sir, audio quality is clear, video quality is also good, and speed is also